Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel for, well, I've decided to now call previews pre-match therapy. So welcome to your pre-match therapy ahead of Chelsea versus Manchester United, because boy, do we need therapy. We haven't beaten Man United in God knows how long. Maybe Python Lewis will know exactly when. I know away it's been like
2017.
2017 was in the FA Cup, that game.
No, in all competitions it's 2020, but 2017 in the league.
Fair. I remember when I was in London remember when we beat them 1-0 in the FA Cup and Kante scored the winner?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
I think that was our last final win at Wembley.
And that one as well, true. Yeah, but at the Bridge, I mean, well, still plenty of injuries. A few people back. So we will discuss that. A few people where we have just no idea when they will be back. Chelsea released a statement on Conor Gallagher because he was accused of racism when he's clearly not being racist. But we'll quickly hint on it as well, because I find it a bit ridiculous that it came this far anyway, but we'll touch on it. Alpha Gilchrist signed a contract extension, a very short contract extension, considering everybody else is getting 6-7 years constantly. But anyway, another thing we will discuss. And of course, Mason Mount returning to Stamford Bridge. What if he scores? What if he scores the winner? What the fuck do we do? I don't know yet, but we will get to that. Lewis, first of all, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it very much. How much of your buzz, of your vibe, did that Burnley result kill? Or did you not fall to, what shall I say? Did you not fall to the pressure that a lot of people were trying to pile on fans, like because we had a somewhat half-decent run before the international break, and everybody was then all of a sudden painting it out as if, we're going to easily finish 7th, and actually things aren't bad at all, and really we shouldn't be such drama queens. When I was like, mate, we scraped wins against Leicester, Leeds, like we scraped wins against all of these teams. I know we scored a lot, but none of them were convincing performances. So I was always a bit baffled by why everyone was so gassed, but that Burnley result certainly brought us back down to reality. So where do you stand on it now? Like, do you still pay attention to, could we get 7th? Could we get 8th in the league? Or like, where do you stand now? Is it just each individual game hoping not to lose to more rivals?
I mean, it just killed my remaining hope, if anything. Yeah. And we can still get 6th or 7th, but it's like, okay, cool. Are we really going to produce that run? We can't be a 10-man Burnley, and I'm meant to have faith for any game coming up in the season now. Even Sheffield United. Like, no. It's up to the players. Like, they're capable of it. I believe the squad's capable of it. I'm not too sure about the manager, but I think the players can produce enough individual moments for it. But if you can't even handle a low block of 9 players in 19th, for about 50-55 minutes, and you can only get 1 open play goal in the whole match. Like, I'm looking at what's in front of me. That is one of the most embarrassing performances I've ever seen from a Chelsea side in general. So you could still get fourth. Imagine you could still get 7th just off winning the games in hand to get the advantage, but that's Arsenal and Tottenham. Tottenham, I believe we could turn up for. Will we win? I don't know. It depends on our attack. It depends on our manager and his game management. It depends on our defense and set pieces. There's so many different variables. And the other one is the Emirates. Sure. Good luck. Our best bet is that Arsenal team is drained after the week before, because they'll go to the Allianz and then they'll go to Wolves 3 days after that. We still got to go through City in between that as well. And even then,
and mate, think about when we've had that situation in the past where we've had more rest than the opponent. Liverpool in a cup final, for example. No, didn't flipping matter that we had a week preparation and they had 3 days?
Yeah, because we have a manager that runs every player into the ground during that break. So you'll do 2-3 games a week's worth regardless, because this guy will push you through that. Probably explains why we were so tired when it got to extra time.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, is there a case to be made that theoretically we could benefit from this whole extreme training next season? Yeah, maybe. But is that worth the drama it caused us this season? I doubt it. So, each other. And I mean, you talk about it there, Lewis, right? In terms of, people talk, these games in hand. Like you say, it's Spurs, it's Arsenal, and in a way, it's Man United tomorrow in terms of the games that we have in hand on West Ham, who are 7th. Out of those 3 games, we could win 1 or 2. We could lose all 3. Exactly. And even if we do win all the games in hand, then we still need to get at least the same or better results in all the other games than West Ham. And honestly, when I look at our fixture list, I'm like, the next game I'm confident that we will win is the last game of the season against Bournemouth. Every game until then, and even Bournemouth we don't always beat, right? But every game until then is like, we might win, but there's every chance as well that we don't, whether that's against Everton, whether that's against Sheffield United, it doesn't really matter.
Even that, we're likely going to be playing Brighton away in the midweek before that.
Exactly. And that just stops it off as well. I mean, I still can't believe how many people still talk about the FA Cup. I'm like, stop talking about the FA Cup. Like, if we beat City, great, talk about the FA Cup. But while we've been drawn against Man City, don't talk about winning the FA Cup. Let's just talk about the semi-final, man. Like, I find it a bit ridiculous.
But we haven't lost to Man City yet. That's the narrative. Okay,
exactly.
We haven't.
So we'll probably draw after 90 and lose an extra time again. Brilliant. Can't wait for that. As if that's any better.
I'm not raising my hopes enough to get disappointed anymore. I can't be bothered for it.
No, exactly.
It's up to the players and it's up to the manager to lift those hopes again.
Exactly. You say that. Partly it is down to them, sure. But I feel like most of it is down to the ownership of the directors. But we'll get into that discussion in a minute as well.
Oh, yeah, that as well. But for stuff on the pitch, you got to look at the tools that you have right now. Players and the manager, they've got to turn up right now.
Yeah, no, that is true. Absolutely. Pice, first of all, thank you for being back on. I appreciate it very much. We haven't had you on since the last game, so I'll start with a similar question to what I posed to Lewis. That Burnley game, how much of your remaining hopes for the remaining season did that kill, or were those hopes already dead before that Burnley game?
Yeah, good to be back on. I haven't been on in a little while. I don't know, to be honest. I was kind of shocked. I really thought it was a 3 points, but yeah, when we drew that, I was kind of like, oh, like we might be fucked. Like even I might have to start losing my little bit of positivity I have left. But I don't know. It's a weird one because I think we're going to win tomorrow night. So I don't feel like I've got the same mindset as you guys. But I don't know. I think our fixtures are relatively easy, but when you draw against Burnley and you mess that up, and it's one of them things you see it time and time again, that sort of fixture, that sort of result, it kind of puts fears into your mind, puts doubts into your mind. So, yeah, I don't know. I feel like if we had beaten Burnley like 4-0, I'd actually be more nervous for tomorrow. But now that yeah, I feel like
can I ask, what makes you think that we will win tomorrow? Is it a case of you think we'll almost bounce back from the bad result against Burnley and like kind of turn up to kind of prove a point, or?
I think it's the motivation thing, and this is a major issue. It's like Man United, they're going to turn up. Like I just, at home, I think we've been quite good against the big teams like Liverpool, Arsenal, City. We haven't lost, so. And I think Man United are absolutely shocking as well. I think it'll be a really open game. They've conceded 100+ shots in their last 4 games. So, if we give Palmer the opportunities and he's a bit better finishing wise, because he did miss some against Burnley, even though he scored 2, then yeah, we might win. We'll have the chances to win. I'm convinced. It's just will we is another matter. But I don't know. I just got a good feeling for tomorrow, especially now that I've seen Jackson's got blue hair, and the last time we beat Man United at home was blue hair Bakayoko. So I think he's been doing a little bit of historic research.
Blue hair Bakayoko. That is a
throwback.
It's like one of them things, isn't it? It's like Dubois Fred. It's like the last time that happened, you won. It's like it's a bit weird. Like he's just changed his hair color for this game, and Bakayoko did the same. So I don't know. It's probably copium more than anything. It's probably copium, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm not gonna throw you under the bus for copium already. We'll see tomorrow how it goes. But because you've touched on it now, I might as well quickly bring up the haircut. Honestly, sometimes for me, it doesn't matter what hair players turn up with. But I'm like, sometimes I ask myself, have these players not learned from the treatment that Paul Pogba received in this country? Like, just don't open yourself up for the media's scrutiny. Like, again, the Chelsea fans won't have a problem with it. But if he misses 3 sitters, people will talk about they should spend more time on the training pitch than the barbers. And it just happens every time, no matter who the player is, right? I'm like, just don't put yourself out for that scrutiny. But hey, I back it. At the end of the day, he turns up with blue hair. So how upset can we really be? And I rate it. See, Lewis, Pice, I agree with you that we kind of turn up in these types of games. 2 counterpoints to that. 1, I still believe that Man United away was by a distance our worst performance of the season. It's just that Man
Yep.
United weren't actually good enough to beat us by more than 2-1, but it should have been 6 or 7 by them that day. Like, honestly, I don't think we've played worse at any point this season in the grand scheme of things. But I agree with you that we usually turn up in these types of games at home. The problem is, for where Chelsea are in 2024 and were in 2023, turning up nowadays means drawing. We don't win games, do we? Like, because you touched all of these games there that we didn't lose against these big teams, but did we beat anyone at home? Did we beat a single big team at home this season? I don't think so. We've got 4-4 against City, 2-2 against Arsenal. Spurs we haven't played yet. Man United, we haven't played yet, so we just draw against all of these now. So I agree with you. My prediction will be a draw, but I'm not as confident about winning. I mean, obviously, we'll do a score prediction at the end, Lewis, but when you hear Pies talking about, in a way, that because of how bad Burnley was and the type of game that Man United is, that he thinks will almost bounce back and turn up, you see that coming as well? Or how do you feel going into the game, like in terms of, do you back us to get a win?
Again, capable of it. It's just I can't shake that performance at Old Trafford. Like, that was especially horrible. And like, I genuinely feel like any manager has a decent chance against Pochettino tactically, because the brother hasn't got any tactics. So, like, we can win. It'll all come down to individuals on the day, because individually we were poor at Old Trafford too.
Yeah,
it's not cut and dry either. Like, we just drew to a 10th place Burnley. 19th place Burnley. So I can't promise anything. Like, I don't really have a lot of confidence for this match. The only hope that I have is that they're as much of a mess as we are. I think player for player, we match up better than Man United. So I hope that stands for something.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I agree, but it's just that what you touched on is exactly the problem. You just don't know what you're going to get with Chelsea, except you know that you're not going to get the best that we could be. It's just a question of, is it enough to win or not? But hey, I want to touch on something, because obviously there's been a lot of scrutiny, a lot of discussions about the ownership, about the directors and everything else. And all of a sudden, a few quotes from an interview from Todd Boehly for Forbes magazine came out. And it's just one quote that we're going to read through here, but we're going to discuss it in general. Like, Todd Boehly says, the good news is that people care so much. The bad news is people care so much. That leads to times where the fans get frustrated with the team and the owners. I get that, but we just have to continue to stay the course. We just need to let the process develop and give them the time to go from being unbelievable individual players with great skills to unfold into a team. Pies, I'll start with you. What was your thoughts when you saw these quotes? Because the part that I find weird is the Chelsea supporters trust, a lot of Chelsea fans have consistently for the last few months asked for more communication from the ownership. And obviously in some ways that, you know, that communication does exist. In some ways it doesn't. In some ways it exists a little bit like this, right? But what I don't understand is, why are you talking to Forbes? Like, you could have essentially said almost that very same thing through on a Chelsea website, on even a video. Like, we've not had that. We've not got that. And even though fans have asked for it for so long, not that it necessarily fixes everything, but I think, you know, it would feel a little bit more in terms of that they're involved. I know Boehly isn't involved anyway, and we know that, but it almost feels like Boehly has basically not been involved. We know that, Pi, since about a year, more than a year now. Why is he the one speaking here now? It almost feels like Ekbali doesn't flip and allow him to speak through the Chelsea channels. Obviously, that's not the case. But your thoughts on the interview itself, on what he said, but also on the fact that he speaks about such topics too, as something as random as Forbes magazine. Why not through Chelsea?
Yeah, I think it's difficult because, first off, I think he was probably, you know, like, he's a business guy. He's a big business guy in America. So he probably did this interview, like, Forbes probably approached him, and then I think they probably asked him about Chelsea, whereas it's not like he's gone to Forbes and, like, started, you know, I want to talk about Chelsea sort of thing. I think he probably got asked, like, because it's one of his businesses he invests in. So, yeah, I think he probably just got asked, and he didn't say too much. But one thing I can tell you from the quotes is, like, they ain't changing model. Like, they ain't changing model for sure. Like, they're going to keep buying these young players. Like, you know, the fan discontent over the young players and lack of experience, which is totally valid. I don't see him changing model. You know, he's talking about staying the course. You know, like, we need to, you know, wait for these unbelievable individual players to become a team and things like this. Like, it's one of those where you just kind of think, oh, like it's going to be more of the same. And in some cases, it's exciting, because we've got some really good young players. But how long does it take to, develop into a team? And also, one of the big things is like, well, if you want to go with this model, well, you need a really good manager to put it all together, or at least to help put it together. And it's like I don't believe we've got that. So it's one of those. It's going to be a very interesting few months to see what happens. But yeah, I mean, it's been work. Forbes is good in terms of finding the quotes. I've had to go to bloody God knows what business conferences in America on YouTube, which have like 100 views to find, Feliciano quotes and Bowley quotes last time. So, this is quite a surprise that it was easily accessible.
It is. That is a good point, actually. I think you make an interesting point there as well in terms of that they will stay with the model, right? I'll bring another thing up on that topic in just a second. But see, the thing is, for me, as much as I have a few doubts about the model in and of itself, I think the model itself can work if it's just ever so slightly adapted to what they're doing. Now, first of all, I think they're overdoing it with how many youngsters they're signing, especially before we have all these clubs part of the multi-club model. Now, we only have Strasbourg. They started signing these players before we even had Strasbourg. If you have 3 or 4 of these clubs and you have places to put all of these players, fair enough. But we're very far away from being in that position. So that's one of the reasons I don't get it. But even still, just if you add a few just spikes of experience and quality of a little bit of an older age than we have, I think that would do it. Like I'm not saying switch it all up now and sign all 30-year-olds. No one will be happy with that either. But go with the youngsters and then just add just a piece. For me, I would say one very experienced quality defender, one very experienced quality midfielder, and one very experienced quality attacker. Maybe in attack, you could argue one winger, one striker, but even still, that's for me the base principle. That's all you need. But they're just going this extra step where I still feel like they don't really understand that youngsters don't develop the same all the time. A youngster in a team full of experienced players, full of winners around them, teaching them the ways, how to train, how to keep yourself fit, how to be at your best every week, at every game, on every day in training, is different to when they're almost left to their own accord. It's like when you're in school and there is no serious teacher about. You're going to be doing, you're going to be messing about all day. But if you've got some people keeping you in check, then you can develop and actually learn shit. But that's what it feels like at Chelsea. And Pochettino was asked about this after the game against Burnley. And I'm not going to play the whole question now, but essentially he was asked, will the players develop to the best of their abilities? Because there's a lot of talented players in world football. Some of them make it to the very top, and some of them just miss out. And Poch was asked that if they're just this group of people together, will they develop the way they could? And Poch said it there, that basically he was refused to almost answer. He basically said, well, that's a good question. It's a very interesting question. It's a very interesting reflection. And I'm like, the fact that he said it this way, as much as I have my issues with Poch, tells me that even Poch agrees that we are overdoing it with the amount of youngsters. And then I'm like, exactly what Pies just touched on. The owners seem to be like, this is our route. This is the course we go down. But they're also like, we're not sacking Poch, at least yet. But clearly, Poch doesn't in detail agree with the way they're trying to do it. So then surely doesn't that not make sense that they're keeping Poch then? So because like they sacked Tuchel over a disagreement of how to do things. Like maybe Poch doesn't verbalize it because he knows he'll get shut down anyway. And if anything, he will just get sacked or whatever else happens. I get it. But I just, honestly, I'm very intrigued because I know for a fact that the way they think it will, well, I say I know for a fact. In my opinion, I'm of the firm belief that the way they think it will work out, it will not work out. And my question is just how many years will it take until they realize? Will it take another year? Will it take another 3? Until they realize, okay, just youngsters doesn't actually work. We thought it does. It does in baseball. Turns out it doesn't in football. I firmly believe that it won't. And I also believe that same thing applies to Strasbourg, for example, which, by the way, again, shout out to the Strasbourg Ultras actually doing something about it. Not that it will really change, but at least they're doing something, right? But Lewis, first of all, back to the quotes from Bowley, like in general, what he's speaking about, that they're going to stick to the thing. I like what he's saying in terms of how, on the one hand, it's a good thing that people care so much, on the other hand, it's a bad thing because it's maybe almost a hint at how it's different to American sports where fans are a little bit less deeply involved. Obviously, as I assume it depends on the sport, and I assume it depends on the fan. But the fact that Poch, in a way, disagrees with how they're trying to do things, but they're still keeping on sticking to Poch, it just all confuses me. Do you know what I mean? Where I'm like, so the manager doesn't really agree. No one really likes the manager, but you're still not sacking him. So what is the aim? Like, I just think so many of the things that these lot do just contradict themselves in so many ways. Do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I know you especially, Lewis, but also Pice slightly disagrees with me on the topic of Mason Mount. We'll get to him. But even still, I feel like they're doing the same again to Gallagher. We already, like, they're giving this 2-year contract to Gilchrist now, purely to sell it for pure profit in 2 years, 3 years' time as well. It's just, where do you stand on it all, Lewis? Because I know you're obviously against Poch. You have criticism against some of the players. But what do you think the owners, like, where do you stand on the owners in terms of, like, do they just need to change? Do you want, like, honestly, just tell me where you stand on the whole topic, really.
The owners are just naive as hell. And, like, they deserve the criticism as well because they brought in these directors who have really wasted 2 seasons with their managerial decision making. And, like, with the players, we could have brought in a bit more experience. I do agree with that, but I also don't think these players have been given a fair thing to be judged with, because I don't rate this manager, I don't rate the structure, and I don't rate his game management or anything really about him. So how can I expect anything from the squad? How can I have a conclusion on all of the players that we've brought in? We've seen Enzo, for example, who was literally cooking under Potter, and even Lampard. Yeah, under Pochettino, he looks absolutely terrible. Just as one example. We have Mudryk, who's only just starting to get game time. That's why with these sorts of quotes, like, I hear what they're trying to say, but you can't tell anybody to believe in this process with this guy in charge. And if they get rid of him, they have to bring in the right guy. And I don't even believe that they will bring in the right guy, but we kind of have to just take the risk again. Because Poch ain't the right one, so why stick with him? The only reason why we're sticking with him now is because it's basically sunk cost at this point. What's the point of getting rid of him in April? They look even stupider for doing it now.
Yeah.
What's the point? You could have done that months ago and salvaged the season. Now it's pointless. So, in terms of the, like, I hear what he's saying, where he says we got to give him the time to go from unbelievable individual players to fold into a team, but they're not going to be a team under this manager and his invisible tactics. So, what process is there to believe in when the guy who's meant to be navigating that process sucks?
Yeah.
And with that in mind, why is anybody going to listen to you or to believe in what you're saying? Because while Poch is the face of it...
What do you make of the players, at least publicly, very often backing Poch, saying they like Poch a lot? Even people like Gianfranco Zola talking about how they think Poch is the right guy. Are there things that Poch has done and you think, okay, on that you did at least all right? Or is it just a complete failure from top to bottom for you? Or are there things? Because, well, one of the, just as an example of what I'm essentially talking about, is there's now praise for Poch making Mudryk better. And I'm like, no, but he would have just been better sooner if he just played him instead of flipping Sterling. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like,
I play players on merit
now for a player that's young
plays
and inexperienced getting better. You know, that's just natural.
Yep. Yeah, I don't think he has improved anybody, honestly, but I think he's a good man manager. So I guess that's why the players are on side with him. He's not really fallen out with a lot of players during his time managing. He's been known as a great man manager, so I'm not surprised the players are standing by him, but that don't mean he's the right guy for the job. Just got to look at where we are. You just got to look at how we play. That tells me more. Cool, the players are on side with him. Great. Bring in somebody else. Like, I don't even care if the other manager's a bit more militant in the way he does things. If we're higher up the table, it's worth it.
Exactly.
Shouldn't just be happy.
But how high up the table does it need to be for it to be worth it? Because it's not worth it if we go from 12th to 8th.
Well, we shouldn't even be around 8th, in all honesty. We should be competing at a higher front already with the squad that we have. But because of Poch, we're looking at that and saying, okay, but at least we're not 12th. That's how far he's lowering the standards.
Exactly. Even in the press conference today, there's no like, okay, it's our clear objective to finish 7th or to finish 6th or whatever. It's like, it's just waffling around constantly. And it's like, on the one hand, I get it. If you don't set a clear objective that there's a chance you will fail at, there's going to be less criticism after one if you claim an objective and then fail to succeed, right? But at the same time, is how do you hone a team? How do you make them winners while you're sitting there at 12th? Well, you can't, but you need to always have objectives that you want to succeed in. You can't just sit there and say, "Oh, every game we want to win." Yeah, sure, but then when you don't, nothing happens. Then you say, "Okay, we take it to the next game." So that's always my issue with this whole one game at a time approach. Because
sounds like the mind of someone who knows he's leaving this season.
Are you?
So
That is
take
actually
a
an interesting
game at a
question.
time.
Are you that confident that Pochettino will be gone in the summer?
I would hope so. Otherwise, any remaining hope I have in this ownership is in the bin. Because seriously, you're going to go into another year with this guy. You're clearly not watching the football, or you don't understand what you're watching.
Exactly. I mean, Pice, you and me have spoken a few times. Am I right in saying you have a feeling that he might end up getting next season, or do you still think that is, results dependent, and we need to get at least 8th, equaling Conference League, for him to keep the job? Well, obviously FA Cup, but again, I see that as so unlikely. I'm not even speculating with that idea.
Yeah, I mean, if he doesn't get any form of European football, then obviously he's going to be sacked. But if he does, then I don't know. I think it would definitely help him towards keeping the job. They're judging on data, and you've already heard him say a lot of the data is looking good. So, it's sad because I think if he stays next season, like my whole thing I keep coming back to is like you can't increase season ticket prices and keep Pochettino. They both of them don't work together. You've got to be one or the other. Like, there's no way fans are going to pay more because they don't like Pochettino, most of the fans. So there's no way they're going to increase, get as many renewals as they're hoping for, or get as much money as they're hoping for, and keep Pochettino. Whereas if you get a new manager, people might be like, "Oh, all right then, let's see what happens," sort of thing again, and they'll get sucked in for one more season. So that's the way I see it. And also, like with this whole reviewing his job, I just can't. I refuse to believe a big club just goes, "Okay, yeah, we finished 8th in the table or whatever. That's progress from last season." He stays. Like, there's got to be a more sort of broader approach. Like, he's got to be judged on training. He's got to be judged on the injuries. He's got to be judged on man management. He's got to be judged on, substitutions, tactics. Like, he's got to be judged on so many things. And I don't believe he passes it, to be honest, that test, if it does happen. But at the same time, I think there's a very real chance they go, "Okay, we got European football. He's staying." Like, that's for me is what I fear will happen. And also, I put a thread on my personal account the other night. I was thinking about it. Like, the managers they really wanted Ruben Amorim, right? He's going to go to Liverpool. De Zerbi, is he going to come to Chelsea? I don't think so. He's going to be snapped up. Who else is there? Like the manager, like Nagelsmann. They're not going to go back for Nagelsmann, I don't think. So, I don't think the managerial market is as busy as it could be if we threw a hat in there earlier. So
I think that's exactly the point, right? In terms of this end of the season review, I think that's how it leaves us so wide open, because Liverpool are already looking, Bayern are already looking, Barcelona are already looking. Like, so many big clubs are already looking for new managers, and we're gonna review the situation after the season and only then make a decision. Do we even want to seriously look for a manager? But like you say,
I've heard reports that we might already be looking, though.
It's true. I think when was it? Like a month ago, maybe there was first reports. I think you put it out, Pice, that they are shortlisting a few managers just in case this happens. But again, that's a month ago and nothing has happened. So,
but that doesn't matter though, because they're going to be taken up probably. Like the Amorim will be on our shortlist. De Zerbi will be on our shortlist. Like Hansi Flick probably go to Barca or something, and he's even good enough. Like, he's not managed a club in years. Like, who else are they going to go for? Like, seriously, what, Xavi? Arne Slot? Like, this is my worry. I'm worried. Like, if they sack Pochettino, I'm very worried about the next manager, because for me, the manager I want is Nagelsmann. I want Nagelsmann. And I just don't think they're going to go back for him, because I think that ship has already sailed. I think that probably too much happened in that, when it's very rare for a manager to sort of pull out of a race when you were the leading contender. Like, there was obviously those reports that he thought there were structural issues and the way the recruitment was handled and things. So, I don't think we'll go for him. So I'm a bit like, well, I hate Poch, but who's the next manager? You know what I mean? I'm left in sort of a ditch here. I don't know who will inspire me.
Is there a case of maybe even you personally thinking that there would maybe be some benefits to keeping him? Not necessarily in terms of, okay, he's good, but in terms of two things. One, it puts us in a potentially slightly better position for managers next season. There's also like, if De Zerbi goes to Bayern, which I still don't know quite how likely that is, but if he goes to Bayern, that makes it a much better option for us when he's done at Bayern, because then we wouldn't be getting him straight from Brighton, which would already look better for the PR at least, right? But also, because under this new ownership, we've sacked Tuchel 6 games into the season, we sacked Potter 6 months later, and then we've had Lampard for a few months, obviously, or a few weeks, obviously, and now Poch. Would it put us in a better position in negotiations with future managers if Poch at least gets a second year? Because obviously a lot of managers will feel like, well, why should I go there? They clearly don't give any manager long enough to really see how it goes. So would Poch getting another season make a potential next manager more likely to say yes to us because they see, okay, in some situations they do give time? Do you get where I'm coming from, Pice? I'll ask the same question to Lewis as well in a second.
I think continuity may help. Another pre-season may help, but it's just something about Poch, man. I don't think he's a Chelsea manager. Like, I just can't. I can't envision. I just can't envision a project around him. Like, I just don't know. Maybe I'm just too far gone with him, but I just don't see it. I just don't see, like, he just doesn't fit, in my opinion. Like,
no, I agree completely.
I don't know.
He ain't got the mentality of a Chelsea manager, and he's contradictory as hell in everything he says. I hear it.
It's just a wrong fit, I think. Like, I don't know, man. It's just something. Yeah.
I agree. I mean, Lewis, where do you sit on that? Right? Obviously, you want Poch gone. I know. I want Poch gone. Pice wants Poch gone. And you said it there, okay. But just because the other managers might not be good enough either, that doesn't mean it's worth sticking to Poch. But do you see the like I say, the thought and principle that, first of all, a lot of big clubs are looking for a manager now, meaning even the ones that we do want, we're unlikely to get right now. But also, like I say, how many managers will keep saying yes to us if we sack every manager within the season? Like, would it put us in a better position in future negotiations if we give him at least a second year? Because what you're talking about in terms of the project with Poch, can you see? Because we all agree that where the team is right now, we're not ready for anything particularly good anyway. Now, we all agree that we should be higher, but all of us know that we're miles and miles and miles and miles and miles away of like Arsenal, Liverpool, City, right? So could he just be the scapegoat? But like the scapegoat to get us through the tough times, and then we get someone who, first of all, we like, and also, but until we get to that point, we can just keep blaming Poch, and it makes it a bit easier than having to blame a new guy. And then, first we blame Poch, then we sack that manager, then we blame the next manager. It's a bit like we all look a bit silly. Like last year, we called for Poch to be manager with this group of players. Like, how many times will it recycle?
It's the first manager with this crop of players. That's why,
absolutely.
to me,
it's not like I'm disagreeing at all. It's just I'm saying there will be, like, it will still take time until we can be any decent. Is it worth keeping him as the scapegoat? Like, a bit like I felt Sarri was almost the scapegoat in terms of to take us from being a defensive team. They hired Sarri.
It's not worth these injuries. It's not worth these constant injuries to these players because of his training methods. It's not worth it. Like, it's just the big name managers that we want that aren't there. Like, a decent recruitment team should be able to look for somebody else.
Should be.
There will be other options. There are options that we don't know about. So it's up to them. They should already be looking, regardless of whether they're going to address things at the end of the season. Like, we're 12th in April. You can't say there's progress now. We're literally where we were last season. That is more than a viable excuse for you to go looking.
No, but the thing is, though, it's like a couple of good results. We're like 7th. Like, it's so fine. And we've had so many chances this season. He's had so many chances this season to get into a position where on the table, it's progress. Everything up, like, I don't think we've progressed really. I think a lot of our players, like Enzo and stuff, they were better under Graham Potter. Like, I think our defense, we're like 10 goals off breaking our record, which is fucking horrendous for the most goals conceded.
We'll have that by the end of the week.
Yeah, like, you know what I mean? Like, there's so many other factors with the attack's definitely progressed in terms of the amount of goals to score, but is that just because we've got better players now? Like, other players we bought
just changed what we focus on, right? Initially, we focused on controlling games that will make you concede less goals, but make it a bit more difficult to score because you have less space. But the way we play now is we're happy to concede possession very often. Therefore, we counter. Therefore, we have more space and our attackers score more, but we concede 3 times more.
Yeah, so, I think, so for example, like, just theoretically, and I mean, I can't believe this is theoretically, because we should, like, or not should, because we've not beaten Man United in so long, but really, like, we should be beating Everton, we should be beating Sheffield United. We win all 3 games, United, Sheffield, Everton. Like, we're in a really good position in the league for Europe, but it's just, we're that down bad, we're that shit.
We just know it.
We're that shit that we know one of them games we're probably going to lose or draw. You know what I mean? It's like, it's just incredible how far, like, our standards have fallen and, like, our expectations have fallen. And he's had chance after chance after chance. Like, look at where Man United are now in the table, right? Because they've scammed some victories. They're like 6th or 7th or what, Like, we were level on points with them, right? For like
in December or whenever it was.
Yeah, for quite a few weeks, or they were like 1 or 2 points ahead of us.
Yeah,
and we just kept fucking up games, and it's like that. You can't. I'm sorry, you just. That's just not good enough. It's not good enough. Like, Man United are not good. I watch them all the time. I've got friends that are Man United fans. They are shit, honestly, and yet they're 6th. That's what.
And yet we play them and we get bopped off the park.
Exactly, bro. It's ridiculous. Literally.
And I mean, Jazza says it here.
Man. They've got a 17-year-old, and they've got McTominay, Amrabat, a washed Casemiro, and they're 6th.
And they still kind of ignore midfield better than we control midfield better than we do, which is baffling thing. But the way Jazza puts it there, the fact that we are 12th in April again, like, it's just so unfathomable how badly we've screwed up these last 2 years. It's genuinely crazy. I want to get to one slightly more positive topic, because there isn't a lot, but the one talisman that we do have this season is Cole Palmer. And according to Matt Law, according to insiders, Cole Palmer is currently believed to be the leading candidate to be named PFA Young Player of the Year. Thoughts? Deserved, Lewis, do you reckon? It'd be good to have one of these awards back at Chelsea.
I'd love to believe he could win it. But I can't shake the feeling they're going to give it someone in the title race. Saka's in for the awards.
True.
I think maybe Haaland might be. I'm not sure. I think
Haaland won it last year, didn't he?
Haaland's not in it.
I think there should be a rule, by the way, that once you've won Young Player of the Year, you can't be in the running again. Like, even if you're still young, you shouldn't be able to win Young Player of the Year more than once. I think that's a bit sick.
Theoretically,
to me, it should be a breakout award, and he's clearly been the breakout star of this season.
Yeah,
so I'd hope he wins.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, I hear you. The whole title. The thing is, these votes, they happen long before the title race is done, so that's why I'm not sure if it will necessarily be a title-winning player because we've been so tight right now, right? If City or if say Arsenal had run away with the league, I think you're probably right. But then doesn't Saka just get the Player of the Year rather than Young Player of the Year? I don't know.
But hey, just because we're so low in the table, that's why I'm a bit worried about if he does win or not.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. Price, do you think he could win it despite the club's league position?
Could win it, yes. Should win it, yes. Will he win it? No. I think Saka will probably win it. Like Lewis said, I think these awards generally don't go to players that are, mid-table, even though, individuals, I mean, it's more of a collective. It's what I keep saying all the time. It's like, everyone's like, oh, your players are shit. Well, no, individually they're good. It's just the collective doesn't work. So I keep having to tell that to people. But yeah, I think Saka will probably win it. I think also a couple of Arsenal fans said that Saka should have won it when they were like, like maybe when he was like left back or whatever, and they were like 6th or 7th or whatever. I don't know where they were on the table. Like he deserved to win it one season and someone in the title race won it. So yeah, it's a bit of a stupid award how it goes to like I get it, it goes to the player that's at the top of the league or whatever. But look, Palmer's goals and assists cannot be ignored. Like they're simply ridiculous. Like it's absurd the season he's having. So yeah, like it should, like Lewis said, it should be like a breakout. Like what young player has the most impact on a team? That's what the award should be, not whoever finishes first or second and has a good season. Like, you know what I mean? So.
It's tricky though, isn't it? Because if you go by that, you can also argue, I don't know, like the Wolves left back. Could you argue that it's him, right? In terms of breakout young, like impact on their team. What if their team is just really bad? Obviously, our team is really bad, but there's teams that are even worse than us. Like, do they still have important players that could be, it's a tough one. But yeah, like you boys said, I hope he wins it. Whether he does or not, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, I don't know if Matt Law's insiders know what they're talking about, but what does it like? Isn't it still part of the vote? Like, isn't it a vote? So how can you be leading candidate? So, or is it just there's a few nominees and some group of people make a decision? I quite don't really know how it's decided, if I'm being honest. Palmer is also supposed to get a new contract, apparently. Thoughts on that, Pice? Because, I mean, on the one hand, it's like, okay, it's not surprising. On the other hand, it's like, okay, so he will probably get 150K now. So what if he keeps getting better? In 2 years, will he want to leave because we're not giving him more money?
Yeah, I don't think you should get this. I can't lie. I think it's too early. I think another good season. I think, yeah, reward him, but I don't know. Like, for me, it's too early. I don't want to think he'd be the type of player that would let money get to his head and affect his form. But I just think let's chill for now. Let's calm down. And, if he has another really good season, then reward him is my view on it. I think it's too early. Like, yeah.
Interesting. Lewis, where do you stand on that, on a Palmer new contract? Do you agree with Pice, or do you think he does deserve a new contract? And a new contract, not necessarily as an extension, but as a pay rise, essentially. You're muted.
Oh yeah, my bad. I get what Pies is saying, but I don't mind it. But I think his performances this season have been good enough that it warrants it, just as like a little standard for some of the other younger players. If you can perform to his level consistently and help carry the team to that level, you'll be able to get yourself in line for an extension too, or a pay rise as well. So I get why they're doing it. I hear Pies' side as well. I don't think what he's saying is wrong, but I don't mind him getting that rise personally.
Yeah, I think the best middle ground between what Pies said, because I do think he has a point, but I also think he should be awarded for the great season that he's had. Now, obviously, you can say he still makes 80K a week, which is more than 99.9% of the not just the global population, but the UK population. But I think if you're not giving him a new contract, I still think there should be big bonus payouts. I'm not sure if he had bonuses in his contract, but there should be extra bonuses for quite how good he has been if you don't give him a new contract. Because, yeah, I mean, there's players earning a lot more than him at the club that have not earned it any more than he has, even before signing. So either give him a new contract or give him big bonuses from my end anyway. We move on. And why don't we talk about the injuries? Shall we talk about the injuries? Because, boy, do we need to talk about these again. Currently, 11 players on this list. I went for this one by Chelsea Dodgers just because on the website I need to fucking scroll for half an hour every time. And the formatting of the website is just terrible anyway. So here we go. We've got 4 players back in training now. In Trevor Chalobah, Carly Chukwuemeka, Malo Gusto, who obviously we all thought got injured towards the end of the Burnley game, but seemingly he was a smart guy and asked to be subbed off while it was just a cramp and before he'd turned into an injury. So that's fantastic news. And Robert Sanchez is apparently also back in training. Ben Chilwell, we don't know if he would be physically fit outside of this now new illness. But yeah, Poch was essentially speaking about how he's had a lot of fluid removed from his knee. I'm not sure if people know how that works, but essentially you get a needle in your knee, an empty cartridge, and then they pull it out. A bit like when they take blood, I guess, just different fluid, right? So it's not fun. You get a needle in your swollen knee, they pull out the fluid, not nice. But now he's ill. So I don't know if he would have been fit otherwise, but I guess there's a few people that are back. Pice, Carney, Malo Gusto in particular, do you expect any of these 4 to start? Do you think Malo Gusto will be fit to start? The way it sounds like, I think he will be, because if not, we've got a either be playing, well, Desarzi at right back or Gilchrist at right back. And against Man United, I don't really want to be doing that.
No, yeah, I think he'll be fit to start. That's good. I was really worried about him, but hopefully he's like fully recovered and not we're just rushing him or whatever, because it's quite a quick turnaround. So yeah, but I think he'll start. Good to see Carney back as well, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see who starts centre backs tomorrow night now that Chalobah's back as well. So
That is interesting.
yeah, Colwell should be back. I think. Well, he's aiming for the semi-final of the cup. So yeah, it's one of those.
He's easing up until it doesn't ease up anymore and we get 4 new injuries.
Yeah, like the other week was crazy. Like it was just it was a random week, and it was like, oh, Sanchez added to injury report, like him undergoing rehabilitation. It's like it's crazy.
It is crazy. Lewis, happy that at least Gusto doesn't seem to be injured in general. Where do you stand on these injuries? Like with Chalobah, with Chukwuemeka, like what I struggle with is right. Chukwuemeka is injured. Then he comes back, plays 10 minutes, plays well, scores an important goal in the end. Not the only winner, but the 3-2 at the time. Goes to international duty, comes back from international duty because he picked up a knock. Okay, now he's coming back, but why does he keep, like, we're not just talking, okay, muscle injury or ligament injury. We're just knocks here, knocks there. Like, Chilwell gets a knock against Brentford. Then he's out for a game. Then he goes to international duty. Everybody's surprised that he's there. Starts both games for England. Everybody's like, how on earth has that happened? Comes back with another knock. Like, we blame Poch, we blame the medical staff, we blame a lot of people. But when it comes to these kind of knocks, are we just unlucky as well? Or like is that too easy?
No, luck plays a part. Good and bad luck, obviously. But yeah, it does play a part. Sometimes it's just a bad tackle, sometimes just a knock or the way you fall. And obviously the manager isn't to blame for that. In terms of muscular injuries and the injuries in training or players coming back and getting injured so soon and the whole Romeo Lavia situation, you can look at the manager for that. But yeah, it's obviously not going to be for everyone. I think that would be too disingenuous for me to say.
Absolutely. Pius, you hinted at Colwell there already. I might as well bring something up on that. Oh, brought up the wrong thing. My apologies. On Levi Colwell, he had some sort of toe injury, which was very interesting. And as part of the rehab of that, he had to wear a protective boot. That's why he wasn't anywhere to be seen. Apparently, that boot has now come off a few weeks ago already, which is like, how many weeks? Not putting a timeline on his return, but Colwell is now doing some light training. Pius just said he's aiming to be back for the FA Cup semi-final. Also interesting, I mean, your thoughts on that, Lewis, and then I'll get to you as well, Pius. Obviously, people have argued a lot about Thiago Silva. Should he be playing? Should he not? Have the conceding 2 goals in 5 successive games? That's to do with Thiago Silva. But weirdly, what I actually think are the most drastic down step in our defensive performances has come once Colwell got injured. And also, it happened exactly like we also got better when Colwell was finally moved from left back to centre back. So is Colwell more important than people give him credit for, Lewis? Or do you think it's more of a coincidence that while Colwell is out, all of a sudden we've started to concede quite as many goals?
I think we've had defensive problems all season in spite of Colwell starting. And a big problem was him being forced at left back for so much of the season when he's clearly not been a left back. Like, I'll be so real with him. Just, get well soon and all of that. We could do with him back because the depth at centre-back isn't really that great right now. But in terms of him being a major miss, like, basically every centre-back hasn't looked great this season. Disasi's been the best out of a bad bunch. But they all haven't been great.
Colwell has been better, but that's,
I don't think he's played a lot at centre back for me to even judge him too tough, to be honest. That's what I'll give you with Colwell. A lot of those performances have been at left back, but if we're talking about the base of the season, like no one's really impressed. But I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I hear that. Pius, what do you think about that in terms of have we missed Colwell more than we expected when he got injured?
Kind of agree with Lewis. Like it feels like he's not really played centre back much, but I think another player victim of Pochettino. I think he's a very, very talented player, and I just don't think we've seen him consistently enough. He's also been injured quite a bit, so we definitely better with him in defence over Disasi, I think. But the problem is it's never one or the other. It's usually, if they ever play together, it's usually both or Colwell's left back. So, Yeah, I would like to see Colwell and Badiashile together because we've still not seen that. But yeah.
I'm honestly not sure if we will ever see that purely because of their both being left-footed. Not necessarily that I think that should be a reason to not see it, but I feel like a lot of managers, even a new manager, would see that as a reason. So that's like I say, there's been plenty of centre-back partnerships that have both been right-footed. So why shouldn't both be left-footed also be a feasible option? I don't know, but hey, there you go. We've got one more injury bit that we kind of need to discuss because, yeah, it's never getting good, is it? It just isn't. I mean, Pochettino spoke about in a press conference today. I think Fabrizio kind of did the best summary of it, so that's why I brought this one up. Pochettino says he doesn't know if Nkunku will play again this season. At the moment, he's not training with us. No setback. He's recovering and he's taking longer than we expected. We hope he can be involved again as soon as possible. Some people thought, or some people said that it was a setback. According to Pochettino, it wasn't. It's just, I can't even remember what this last injury was. Didn't he pick up this injury in the cup final when he came from the bench and then played, the last half hour plus extra time? And then the game after, Poch all of a sudden said, yeah, Nkunku got injured and we don't even know where and how. And is that since he's been injured, right? And he was supposed to be out for supposedly 4 weeks. This is now 6 weeks ago and we don't know when he's going to be back. Like, how much more concerning can he get? Like, I really like Nkunku, and I was really hopeful and excited that, what he would give us this season. But honestly, at this point, I feel like the club might sell him before he even starts 10 games for us because he's now too old, right? Like, well, why should it all of a sudden not apply to him, our whole under 25 idea? Just because we signed him then, if he's not doing anything by the time he turns 27, 28, then, is there a limit? Like, I don't know. I mean, Lewis, where do you stand? Do you just feel bad for him being injured so much? Are you still excited for him to finally be fit and back, or has that excitement dwindled a little bit? Because, of course, he's been struggling with injuries and fitness and stuff, but even that little period where he was playing, even if rarely from the start, he never looked particularly good. I know he scored a couple of decent goals, in particular the Liverpool one, even if it didn't mean anything, but I don't know. It's just the way the club have painted it in media briefs and stuff, as he's basically our saviour. Even in pre-season, I never thought he was this standout player. Like, he linked up well, but he's just scored a couple of tap-ins.
That's only because of Poch. He said every time we lost, he was the excuse.
For sure.
So, like, that was my problem with it from the start, because I knew they were painting him up to be too big for the impact he would really have on this Chelsea team. So, I'll be real. I don't want to see him for the rest of the season. There's nothing against him. It's just, what's the point if we try and rush him back or anything? Like, you might as well just come back next season when this mess is over and hopefully we have a new coach. Maybe he'll come in a bit slower or something. I don't know. But for now, it's not been his season. It is what it is. I can't be annoyed at someone for being injured basically throughout their first season. Just bad luck to a certain point. But whatever. We'll see you next season. There's no reason to rush him back. This season's basically a write-off anyway.
It is a little bit. As you've been talking, Lewis, Pice put out a very interesting new tweet through Mail Sport. I'll open the article up in a second as well. But Mail Sport has learned leading member of the Blue squad have been discreetly approached by external medical professionals offering the services away from Chelsea's control. Pice, I'm not sure if you scanned through the article itself as well already, but thoughts?
This is something that I feared was happening, already. I think.
Why do you use the word feared?
Well, because players should not be going, like, I think 2 players have rejected, and so if you read down, it says like 2 players have rejected the guy's advances and instead put trust in the current medical professionals. But I fear that, if people are using their own guys and then coming back and also using the existing medical staff, it's like you're getting 2 different types of treatment and 2 different types of advice. And I feel like you should only be getting one, right? Like, I don't think it's wise to get 2 lots of advice from different people. Like, we saw the Chalobah thing that, I don't know if that was real or not, but like he was getting taught something different, like a different exercise. And then, like, for me, you should have your medical staff and that's where you should go. Like, this is a profession at the end of the day. You're literally
but then I'm thinking
one of the biggest clubs in the world.
I'm just making an assumption, but I would assume your players like Ronaldo, Mbappe, these kind of the super top athletes. I feel like they would all have their separate people outside of the club as
The
well.
club should
Like
know,
that you are working with during, say, the summer, during an international break when you
Yeah,
have
but the
different
club should
options with the
know.
national team anyway and stuff. So I'm like, if they're good people, I think this is not a bad thing. What I don't like it is if it's done secretly from the club, because we know Sterling has had some sort of work with not necessarily only medical staff, but nutritionists and extra people outside of the club that he's worked with. And as much as Sterling has done wrong this season, at least he's been fit compared to pretty much everybody else in the squad. So, from that perspective, I don't know. I mean, let's read through it quickly, then I'll get Lewis's thoughts on it as well. Chelsea players discreetly targeted by private sports medicine experts as the club's ongoing injury crisis continues to raise scrutiny on the Blues medical team. Private sports medicine experts are discreetly blah, blah, blah. Just said the same thing. And also talking about the Serbi, which is irrelevant right now. Chelsea players are being targeted by private sports medicine experts looking to pounce on the club's ongoing injury crisis. Pochettino's first season in charge at Stamford Bridge has been ravaged by consistent muscular injury problems that have thrust major scrutiny on the club's medical department. A Mail Sport has learned leading members of the Blues squad have been discreetly approached by external medical professionals offering the services away from Chelsea's control. There is a growing trend of footballers seeking additional medical care away from their respective clubs as players seek alternatives to more traditional practices. England captain Harry Kane, for example, hired Canadian-based specialist Dr. Alejandro Elorianga Claraco to cure his long-standing ankle problems. A number of Kane's international colleagues have also hired experts to work on their bodies away from their club training grounds. Mail Sport knows of 2 senior Chelsea players who have so far rejected the advances of practitioners, instead putting faith in the club's current medical department. Generally, clubs would prefer their players not to receive off-site medical attention, with many footballers receiving external care in secret, so not to cause issues with teams. Moving forward, Chelsea are looking to bolster their injury prevention practices in an effort to avoid a repeat of this season. The Blues are currently in the midst, blah, blah, blah. They're also looking to add a physical performance coach to their staff in the coming weeks, a role specifically designed to aid the reduction of injuries. The job remit reads: the role will include but not limit to leading on monitoring and recovery of our first team playing squad, including projects around the other 22 hours. All right. In relation to optimizing key lifestyle components that contribute to optimal health and performance, supported by the players by the latest physiological principles and evidence. The Blues currently have 9 first-team players unavailable for Thursday's clash against Manchester United. Lewis, where do you stand on this? Players seeking external, or, well, to be honest, it doesn't say players are seeking it. It says that medical experts have approached the players themselves, and some have rejected, some may not have. Where do you stand on it? Do you think that's a good thing? Like, Harry Kane does it, plenty of other big ones do it, but apparently it's a thing that no clubs like. So what do we think of it? To me, like Joe says here, it sounds like some medical experts trying to take advantage to make money. I agree. It does sound a little bit like that if they are the ones approaching. But at the same time, I'm like, do I trust the club to fix it? Absolutely not. So would I rather some of these players find their own ways to fix their injury problems? Yes, I would. But how do you see it, Lewis?
Is it targeted, or have they actually done anything? Have they actually been getting?
Well,
So they've been trying to talk to them.
But what this article says is that these medical experts approach the Chelsea players rather than,
It sounds like they're just trying to get a quick buck out the players. Or they're getting a quick buck out the media as well by selling the story.
Maybe. Absolutely. Fair point.
It's been so easy to clickbait Chelsea fans this season.
It's true. I mean, Pice, you will know better than that. Is Semi Mokbel a guy where you'd have to consider that option? Or do you think if Semi Mokbel puts it out, there's at least some truth to it?
100%. Yeah, Sammy's very reliable. He doesn't post garbage, for sure.
No, I'm not even saying the whole thing's garbage. As in, are they just talking to them?
He's not a clickbaiter. He doesn't even cover Chelsea. He covers like most London teams. Like he's not like a.
But I see what Lewis is saying. If
all I'm asking is it actually just a targeted thing, or are they working with other experts and then working with Chelsea hand in hand?
Well,
we don't know the only thing it says is that 2 players rejected the approaches, right? So we don't know if others are working with them or not. But I think what Lewis meant is in terms of, could these medical people just be, telling the Mail or Semi Mokbel individually, by the way, we're trying to get some of these Chelsea players on board to work with us to help their injuries, might as well write an article about it, rather than that it's fake, but that it's these medical people trying to help their case.
But that's not good, though, because in the article it says away from Chelsea's control. So it's behind their backs. It's not working with the club. So
it's because you can't stop it either. Like, they might inform them, but it's not like the club can say, well, you're not allowed. Do you know what I mean? So unless it's written in the contract. But yeah, it's a tricky one. In general, I don't mind it. Obviously, I'd prefer it if the club just sorted themselves out to the extent that this wouldn't be necessary. But if I'm a player and I'm constantly getting injured and I feel like I'm not being treated the way I should be treated at my club, I would be doing the exact same thing. So, yeah, difficult one to really know the full extent of it, but we'll just have to wait and see, I suppose. Still interesting that it seems to be happening. A couple of smaller pieces before we get into talking about tomorrow's game in more detail. Obviously, we discussed Nkunku, we discussed a few of the other injuries, but a couple of things. First of all, Alpha Gilchrist signed a contract extension. We'll just keep this short and sweet. Pies, what do you make of the contract extension? What do you make of the contract extension that is a contract until 2026? So that's 2 years from now with an option for 1 year more. Doesn't seem like a particularly long contract compared to all the other contracts that have been handed out under this ownership. So thoughts? Just giving him a contract to sell him for pure profit in 3 years?
Yeah, it seems like a PR spin to me, to be honest with you. Yeah, you know, he's played in the squad a little bit. The fans really like him. You know, look, let's give him a contract and act like we're not going to sell 5 academy players in the summer. You know, I mean, it's a bit of a PR spin. Like, I think even Matt Law said, like, in one of his articles, it was like, Chelsea will hope that this will ease fears that, you know, the club are using the academy for pure profit. I mean, for fuck's sake, do they think we're stupid? Like, I replied, like, this is a funny way to say you're selling Gallagher in the summer. Like, you know what I mean? Like, come on. Like, we're not stupid. We see past this PR stuff now. Like, come on. Like, they put videos about him. Like, good for Alfie Gilchrist, but I feel sorry for him in a sense because I just feel like he's going to be another one that gets sold if he does remotely well. It's just really sad, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Fabrizio said we're planning to loan him next season, which obviously makes sense. But also it's like, well, what if Reece and Gusto are injured again all season? He's playing right back. But yeah, that's a problem to discuss next season then, I guess. I'm not even going to stick too long on this one. It's not that crazy news, is it? But Chelsea also released a club statement on Conor Gallagher, of all people. Some people may not have realised what's happening, but the statement reads as follows. Chelsea Football Club is aware of a video clip circulating on social media from Saturday's fixture against Burnley, which has been taken considerably out of context. The subsequent level of abuse and defamatory comments directed towards Conor Gallagher is completely unacceptable. We are proud to be a diverse, inclusive club where people from all cultures, communities, and identities feel welcome. So if people haven't seen it, obviously Gallagher captaining Chelsea on Saturday with Reece James and Ben Chilwell's absence. There was 2 mascots, these 2 kids that you can see here. He, went down the tunnel, shook the hand of the let's say left kid, right? The right kid was also kind of holding his hand out to get a handshake, but then Gallagher started talking to someone, some former teammate guy, whatever, and then didn't shake the other kid's hand in the 8-second clip that was making the rounds anyway. As you can see, hands on both kids here. You can see there's another picture of literally a second after, the whole clip anyway. Where is it now? There it is. Ignore the comments, but yeah, you can see he's clearly stood with both, and the kid seems perfectly fine. But Conor Gallagher's Instagram and all sorts of other social media platforms were literally all just filled with, abuse, being racist, being this, being that. I don't think he is. And I certainly don't think this action makes it seem like he is. But yeah, it just shows the modern trend of social media. It's very easy to jump on people on the context of an 8-second clip. Not much to say, but Lewis, what do you make of the fact that Chelsea ended up releasing a statement about this? That honestly surprised me the most, if I'm honest, because there's been a lot of things that have happened where Chelsea never released a statement, and now they all of a sudden choose to release a statement. Very interesting.
Yeah, society's weird.
Yeah,
because I saw the video go around on Twitter and I had a laugh about it because everyone's going to run the whole proper Chelsea narrative now with Gallagher, and then the whole of society took it serious. I saw him getting ripped on his Instagram and I thought, no way people actually looked at that video and thought Gallagher's a racist. You can run the joke and everything, take the piss a little bit, but not be serious, and to a point where the club had to put an actual statement out. I know we're saying they didn't have to, but like he got so much abuse under his latest Instagram post. To a point, I get it. It's just I don't know how it managed to get that far, because there's another video of Sterling ignoring that kid too.
Yeah,
like, that kid got aired by half the squad. In all honesty, like
maybe he's just not a nice kid.
Yeah, maybe he was annoying everyone. I don't know. Stole the Lucasades or some crap, or the Red Bulls. I don't know, but
maybe.
Like Gallagher clearly isn't racist. It's just this whole story and the whole timeline of it is just hilarious. Like we'll look back on it in a year and laugh.
Yeah, well, I hope he can laugh about it too. But yeah, it helps. it helps.
You know, if Jackson scores though, he's going to be the first one jumping on top of him. See, I'm proving it. I'm proving it.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I don't think we should be getting hung up on it too long. But yeah, it would make sense to mention it just quickly. One other thing before we get into the what do we call it? The game itself in terms of our lineup tomorrow. I want to quickly touch on Mason Mount's return. I'm just highlighting this, not necessarily, just this tweet. We'll bring up another one as well. I'll start with you, Pice. Not necessarily on just this topic already was, used as a cash cow, which most people know. Some people disagree. I know I'm not necessarily here with the two best people to defend Mason Mount in this case, but we'll see how it goes. If just theoretically, right? If Mount scores tomorrow, Pice, how will you react? Pice?
That would be the reaction. That'll be the reaction. I hear it.
He's lost
connection. Yeah, that would literally be the reaction.
He's left. Maybe that was his joke. Could well be the case. But Lewis, I'll ask you then. Obviously, you've been very much against Mason Mount. You've been not defending him, and you're saying, "Oh yeah, he's as much as I think you still accept that the club certainly did kind of want to get rid of him. You kind of support the fact that they wanted to get rid of him, I suppose. But his return tomorrow, what do you think the reception will be? Do you think he will get booed? Do you think he will? And what do you do if he scores to win against us? Because I would just
he's going to get Courtois
treatment into the ground of shame. I think
he's going to get Courtois treatment in all honesty, but I don't think he has a good game if he plays, just because his record in big games is never great in general. And I think the fans are just going to get onto him from minute one. And I've seen enough Mason Mount games where he disappears for like 60, 70 minutes in a match. Not just for Chelsea, but for Man United as well. So I'd be very surprised if he had any involvement in the game, bar maybe an assist off a corner. Because you know what we're like at set pieces. If I have any idea of Mount having an impact off the game, it's off a corner. Nothing else.
Yeah. Well, don't speak too soon, mate. Because if he does have an impact somewhere else...
Oh, yeah. Famous last words with me. I jinx everything this season.
Exactly. Apparently, Pice had some sort of power cut. So hopefully his power is back soon. And then he can be back. Now, just quickly, obviously, I saw you quote some of it already. I'm not sure if you saw my reply to you, but there's this one, obviously, Mason Mount.
I actually didn't see it.
They're all good. That was viewed as the perfect solution to generate a much-needed cash injection at Chelsea. According to sources, rather than Mount rejecting numerous contract proposals made by the club, Chelsea were inviting offers as early as December 2022. And then the other bit on the whole Mason Mount stuff, I guess, is Mason Mount is disappointed by the characterization that he left Stamford Bridge for financial reasons, when according to multiple sources, the decision was made way above his head. Sources say Chelsea saw him as a much-needed cash injection. Now, you basically posted, I rejected 200k. My response was, yeah, he did, but a 1 year 200k. And that's, I always feel like if I was him, no matter how loyal I am to Chelsea, if I'm getting a 1 year contract, I'm rejecting that too, because you're 24 and you know for a fact that the only reason they've offered you this is to make sure you can't leave for free. That's the only reason they offered him that. Like, come on, Lewis, you know that.
But
you know that.
We didn't need to do that because we got rid of him with a year left. So we didn't have to get to that.
But they wanted to. That's why they offered it to him, just in case he refused to leave. Just in case he refused to leave and then could leave on a free the year after. That's why they wanted to give him a 1 year deal so he can be tied down.
Is it refusing him to leave, or is it a case of Mason Mount staying for a year, playing to a much better level than what we saw the season before, and maybe getting that for 6 years?
Sure, no, absolutely.
Because that was my thing. Mount's asking for that sort of money on awful form. And not even just form, it's got to a point where it's just a standard. He's gone to United, and even though he's
My
not
problem
played a
with
lot,
that
when he's
for the
played, it's
last
been to the same
season,
level.
Right, you can I just say that bit because he was poor until the World Cup, and then after the World Cup, we already got wind of there was a contract, and then Chelsea pulled it off the table. So the initial agreement that him and Bowley seemingly had was before the World Cup. That was only 2 months into the season. So then, he wasn't in great form, but we were still doing it on the back of the season before we had a really good season. So you can't really complain about it too much. Then all of a sudden, the offer is off.
I wouldn't say really good. I think he had a really good season when we won UCL. Like the season after, it was
but
the
in
best
terms of
a bad
numbers,
run.
he had a very good season. He had until Palmer now.
In terms of numbers, but
was
that's
the
how
only
Bruno
one to do
Fernandes
double
has been
digits
getting
since
by
Hazard.
for years.
So if we
Yeah,
don't
but
say
like
other
we
things-
can compare it
unless
to
we say
Hazard
the
to make
whole
it
squad
sound a
shit,
lot better, but it doesn't mean that it's better.
No, I agree with that. But he was still better than all
Like
the
Bruno Fernandes gets off on GA for years. That don't mean he was a good player. It just means he was getting high GA.
Well,
Same thing
I
applies
agree
to
with
Mount.
that but just because they're not as good as Kevin De Bruyne, it doesn't mean they're still not better than other players.
But then that's another extreme. I'm not comparing him to De Bruyne.
No, of course not.
There's just he was nowhere near that level.
No, obviously not. But he was still better than every other Chelsea player in that season.
That's why I said he was the best of a bad bunch. That doesn't necessarily mean we should have been keeping him on those wages.
It was him that was thrown under the bus to all of a sudden he doesn't like Chelsea anymore and wanted to leave for more money. I just don't buy it. He just wanted to stay for longer on a decent amount of money. I don't ever think he wanted ridiculous money. Like, is it not?
Well, he was on 80K. He was on like what, 80K a week?
I think that makes total sense in his.
He was on what, 80K a week?
Yeah.
So like you could have had a pay rise. I had no issue with that, but what, 200K a week on those sorts of performances? Hell no.
But him and Bowley agreed a deal. So obviously, if you
and I'm glad they pulled back on it because he didn't deserve that money.
That's fair enough. But once you'd agreed a deal with the owner for a certain amount of money, would you then take a lesser offer than you'd already been offered? No, you wouldn't. Like,
are you saying that they might have offered him above 200K a week?
Who or when?
The owners. Are you saying they might have offered him above 200K a week?
I don't know in numbers. I think maybe.
I think that would be crazy in itself. And if it is 200K a week, that's already a massive jump up from the 80K.
I don't think the money is the decisive
even
thing.
If it's
what
for a year.
What he agreed with Bowley was a multiple year contract. I think that's the big difference. Rather than that, it's the money that's.
But
different.
then he's still getting the wages that he would have asked for. Then it's just the timing's gone down.
I don't think he's like, okay, I want 200K or 250K or this, and that's all I asked for. I think he wanted to have a normal contract. Name me one 24-year-old you've ever heard of that signed a 1-year contract. That's not a thing, man. Like, who does that? No one ever. Like, it's.
Well, we've done it before with Kepa, to be fair.
Might have been. I mean, Pice, first of all, glad you're back after your power cut. I was just reading out, obviously, these reports on Mount. And I was asking you, how would you react if Mount scores tomorrow? And then we were just discussing the whole how Mount was, in my opinion, made to look bad.
Wait, sorry, can you repeat that?
Oh, good. Well, essentially, just how would you react if Mount scores tomorrow? Because I don't think it would get much worse than that this season, and especially for the owners, it wouldn't get much worse than if Mount scores the winner tomorrow.
Oh my days, no, it will be horrendous. He's going to get booed. He's going to get absolutely shredded as well. But, you know, I had my different information on this at the time. I think he was forced out. And I didn't even like Mount, so...
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I always knew it was true, because you told me it. And I was like, well, if Pice tells me this, and Pice doesn't even like Mount, then it's definitely true.
Yeah. I think, you know, obviously everyone's common knowledge that Bowley agreed a deal, and then when Stanley took charge, obviously the contract was pulled. I don't know, it's a hard one because I think it's like Lewis. I don't think he should have got the money that, you know, let's be fair, his dad was asking for. Yeah. But I also think Mount is to blame a lot because he shouldn't have let his dad negotiate a contract for him. Like, it's always difficult when you get family.
Bro, that's way easier said than done. Imagine your dad does your negotiations, and then good luck trying to tell your dad, actually, Dad, I don't want you doing this for me anymore.
Why is your agent your dad though? Like that's ridiculous in my opinion. But
It is, but is that a decision that players make themselves? Do you know what I mean? That's what
yes,
happens with young players.
yes, he could easily say like, "I love you,
No, of
dad."
course he
But
could, but
you
imagine
know,
saying that to your dad. Like, think about it.
I know, but it's
Hey, you gotta be ruthless in the football world.
You gotta be, but who is? Do you know? Like, who is? Roman
Probably
is. Fucking
I'm
out of
sure
his heart.
I've heard football players sacking their parents or family members before.
Absolutely, it is a thing. Like it's a thing in multiple sports. Lewis Hamilton also used to be managed by his dad, and at some point had to split. And then it was all this media report how Lewis Hamilton and his dad hate each other now.
Yes, it's happened before. Like you just
No,
got
it's
to charge
absolutely
it
it's
to the
happened,
game.
but it's still not an easy
The one
thing. And
thing
I
I
feel like
will
it's still
say-
an easy. Oh, Mount, you dickhead! Why did you get represented by your dad? Well, probably because his dad represented him when he was 18, and then never changed the manager because Mount never wanted to leave the club anyway. So.
The one thing I will say is I have a severe dislike for his dad because that video that came out, which when he joined Man United there in the dressing room and he was like, "Home, mate, home." Like, you get the fuck out of here. Like, honestly, what do you mean home? Like, you.
But again, not Mason's fault
Disgusting.
that his dad said that.
Disgusting home. Like, what are you on about? Like, so yeah. Honestly, I feel like his dad wanted him out of Chelsea for one reason or another. You know, I
Wanted
don't
at
know why,
United.
but
Maybe also, I'm not sure if I can say this. I think it's old enough that it doesn't really matter. Obviously, there was also discussions between the Rice people and Chelsea, and the Rice people didn't feel particularly treated well. Wouldn't be surprised if that had an impact on why Mount's dad wanted him out of there as well, because obviously these two and their families are close as well. Who knows? At the end of the day, we can't change it anyway. I'll stick by what I said, other than against us. Obviously, I don't hope that, but otherwise, I hope Mount scores 40 goals a season and makes our owners look stupid. But against us, I hope he has the worst day ever. But I fear that he will come back to haunt us. I just hope he doesn't. Let's get into talking about the team we... What do you reckon, boys? Would you prefer predicted or your own team? What do you reckon?
predicted.
Yeah,
Just
might as well go predicted.
Do predicted. It's for the most part pretty straightforward anyway. Now, even though Sanchez is back, I think we'd all be very shocked if it wasn't Petrovic in goal tomorrow, right? Price?
I hope so.
Yeah.
No, I would be shocked though if he did start Sanchez, but
Yeah.
Would have
Especially
been
after the howler Sanchez had at Old Trafford, let's not forget.
yeah, Petric had a howler last game, but I think
True.
he's more solid overall. So
Yeah. I mean, well, actually, Price, what did you make of that mistake? Because obviously it was a clear mistake for the second goal, but he also made some really good saves beforehand. I felt people were a bit harsh on him personally. Like on that individual moment, obviously it was a bad mistake, but without him, we'd already been losing 4-2 until that point.
wait, what?
What did you make of that Petrovic error? Because obviously he was really good actually until that point in the game. So I felt people were a bit.
It was a bad error. Let's not lie. He
Yeah,
tried
no,
to catch it. He tried to catch it, but just
Missed
failed miserably. It wasn't even a good header.
No, it wasn't. It was just a stinker. But Lewis, do you agree it should be Petrovic or will be Petrovic, or do you think somehow Sanchez will be thrown in?
Look, yeah, it'll be Petrovic. I don't see Sanchez going back into this game, and I don't want to see Sanchez back either. So yeah, stick with Petrovic for me.
Wonderful. Centre backs then. Lewis, what do you reckon? Obviously, it seems like Thiago Silva will never see the light of day again, which I still find utterly disrespectful. But the weird thing is, didn't he, Thiago Silva, that Palace away game when Thiago Silva got injured, that was after Bale Silva's tweet, wasn't it? But then he got injured, then he was out for like 2 weeks. And then he's never played again since. And I just find it weird that he did use him initially after the tweet and now doesn't anymore. So, like, I don't know what's happening there, but I think we all know that he won't start. But who do you think will? Obviously, last game was Badiashile and Disasi. Chalobah is now back, though. So, who do you expect the centre-backs to be tomorrow, Lewis?
Still the same back two. Disasi always starts at this point.
Yeah.
And yeah, I wouldn't see Badiashile dropped either for this game.
Okay. What do you think, Pies? Because Badiashile, honestly, I was, if anything, surprised that Badiashile started the last game, to be honest, because obviously that was his first start since his injury. He didn't look necessarily great. He won 0 out of 5 aerial duels in that game, being 6'4" or 6'5". It's a bit ridiculous. I know we played Burnley, but it's not Sean Dyche Burnley anymore, is it? But who do you think the centre backs will be? Do you think it will be these two? Do you think Chalobah comes in?
I think it'll be Chalobah and Disasi. I hope not, because I think Gladys should play, but I think it'll be Chalobah and Disasi.
It's a really tough one to call for me, honestly, because I'm not sure if it's so difficult because I think Chalobah was meant to start last game, but then was obviously just injured again. So that makes me think it will be Chalobah. But then I don't know quite how true that is. I don't know how fit he is. I don't know. Purely for fitness, I think maybe he picks Badiashile. That's why I'm going to side with Lewis. But I think it could equally as much be Chalobah. Or does he all of a sudden think, okay, actually, I've conceded 2 goals 5 games in a row. Maybe I need to swallow my pride and actually start Thiago Silva. Because it's Man United, it's a big game. Maybe. I doubt it, but maybe. Do you know what I mean? But anyway, fullbacks then. Cucurella and Gusto. If Gusto seems to be fit, is that the only real option, isn't it, Pice?
For right back, yeah, and left, yeah, it'll be them two for sure.
Cucurella and Gusto, yeah. There's not much of another option, is there, Lewis? So it has to be those two, no?
Yeah, it has to be. Thank goodness Gusto's back.
Yeah, thank God. Because without him, we'd be absolutely ruined. What did you boys make of Cucurella in the last game anyway? Like, obviously, him coming back from that injury. I thought he was actually really good before he got that ankle injury in, like, January time. Last game, I thought, was one of these games where you didn't do particularly good defensively. And as usual, you never do anything going forward. So, but he never gave the ball away. So what did you make of Cucurella last game? Where do you even stand on Cucurella genuinely, Lewis? Because I know you're not a fan of Chilwell, but is Cucurella good enough in your eyes, or do we just need a new left back anyway?
Oh yeah, Cucurella's been much better this season. Last season, I thought he went through a lot of ups and downs, but he also had a lot of off the field issues. It wasn't really fair to judge him. This season, though, like, he stepped up a lot for us, and I hope he's the one that we keep this summer. The rumors of him leaving and Chilwell staying are like, I'm dreading the sound of it. Because he's the worst out of all the 4 left backs that we had the option for in the summer, and he's the one that we're going to keep. Doesn't make any sense to me, but yeah, Cucurella's been good so far.
Fair dues. Going to midfield then, I'll stick with you, Lewis. Another pretty simple one, Enzo and Caicedo, yeah?
Yes, please. And let's hope Enzo stays deeper as well. I thought they were both pretty decent on Saturday in a shower of crap. So hopefully they continue that form.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, Lewis. Can I actually ask you on this? Because we've had on post-match streams, pre-match streams, we've had many discussions about the midfield. Because I often, and even on the last game in particular, I agreed with you completely that as individuals, they were both pretty decent. But as a combination of a midfield, we again failed to control a midfield against 19th Burnley down to 10 men for half the game. Where do you even agree with the fact that we basically never control midfield? And what do you put that down to? Because yes, you can now say Poch, but I think only saying Poch is almost a bit too simple. Like, okay, sure, blame the manager, but like, what do you talk about Burnley then? Company wasn't even on the sidelines anymore, and still the players managed to work. So, like, if you're a midfielder and you're like, we're constantly getting overrun here, surely you would try to do something about it and not think, oh yeah, well, the manager says we need to do this anyway, even though we're getting absolutely destroyed here. Any midfielder of any decent quality, in my opinion, would then slightly adapt to not get destroyed in midfield. And I feel like that happens to us every game. Every game, these midfielders are getting overrun. What do you put that down to, or do you even disagree, Lewis?
Well, for the last game, I thought our biggest problem was the attacking mid, because he wasn't an attacking mid. He was going into DM, he was going into left mid, he was going into right mid. And then when you get the ball of Enzo and Caicedo, they're looking forwards and there's a giant hole in the middle because he's not there. He's just everywhere else because he's got 0 positional awareness. God, like 5 forward passes completed. So for looking at the problem in midfield, for the last game, it wasn't Enzo and Caicedo, it was Gallagher. So that would have been the problem.
But is Gallagher the reason why the midfield got overrun, or why the midfield didn't keep possession? Because I think, for me, those are 2 different issues.
Why don't midfield didn't keep not didn't keep possession, because we were holding on to the ball too much in my eyes, but we were constantly putting it to the left and to the right. That was the reason why we couldn't progress and why we didn't make as many good chances as we should have.
Yeah, no, exactly. But on the opposite, whenever they had the ball, the midfield never stopped them. They'd always went past the midfield and the defenders stopped them. That's kind of like, and I feel like that's a reoccurring trend this season, that when we get attacked, whether that's on the counter or with normal possession football, it's sometimes Enzo and Caicedo stop the ball, but in the grand scheme of things, they always get past the midfield, and then it's the defenders that have to stop the opponents, and I think that's a serious issue for us.
When it's not Caicedo, that's been more Enzo's problem, if anything. And I could say I did see that in some parts with Enzo, but not necessarily Caicedo on Saturday. I thought he did his job brilliantly. But we had to take him off because we had to throw forwards on.
Yeah, that was a whole separate issue again. Price, obviously, Enzo and Caicedo midfield. I'm sure you're just going to agree, so I'm going to ask you number 10. Now, we're doing predicted here, so you're going to have to say Gallagher, but you can tell me what would you do differently, even though we have to put Gallagher on screen?
So this is predicted from 4.
First, do you agree with Enzo and Caicedo, which I know you do, and then just the number 10, which I know you will say Gallagher, but I'd like to know who would you play instead of Gallagher, even though I know you have to put down Gallagher now because it's a predicted 11. Or would you stick to Gallagher against United? Because obviously United away was one of the 2 or 3 games all season that Gallagher didn't play.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. Yeah, I probably would stick with Gallagher. I think at home. Yeah, pressing wise, I think I would stick with Gallagher in the 10.
All right, fair dues. I'll let you continue the rest of the front 3 as well, I suppose. Obviously, we don't have another striker, so there never needs to be a discussion about Jackson up front. 2 wingers then. Who do you expect, and who would you pick if it's something different to what you think Poch will pick?
Predicted, obviously, Sterling and Palmer.
Do you think that will happen, considering Sterling was on the bench last game?
Yeah, Sterling will start. I'm convinced. And then, for me, I would do Mudryk and Palmer, though.
First, I would too. Lewis, I assume if we're doing a predicted 11, I assume you agree that the number 10 will be Gallagher. What about the wingers, though? Who do you expect Poch to start there? Do you agree with Pice that it will be Sterling, or do you think he'll stick to Mudryk?
Yeah, I think Sterling comes back. Unfortunately, because I'd like Mudryk to keep the run going, but I feel like Poch goes for experience with how important the game is, as most managers usually do. So I think it'll be Sterling over Mudryk, unfortunately.
I unfortunately agree. It's just a shame that experience seemingly doesn't matter to him anymore at centre-back now, which is a bit weird. But anyway, yeah, it's a weird one because in the last game, he left Mudryk on the pitch for... He played the whole game, didn't he? So that is surprising in and of itself. And also, I felt maybe more so than others, I thought this was one of Mudryk's better game for us. I especially, not that everything worked out for him, but considering he played left wing all game, not number 10, this was one of the most involved I've ever seen him for Chelsea and one of the most confident I've seen him. Now, obviously, taking his country to the Euros will give you extra confidence, so it's not surprising. But still, I don't know. Isn't the stat, Pice? I'm not sure if you remember it. How many games did Sterling play against Man United and never score? Like nearly 30 games in total of his career, and he's never scored against Man United. Is that true?
I think it's his whole career, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think a total of nearly 30 games, all in all.
Yeah, it's something like that. I can't quite remember, but yeah, it's abysmal.
It is shocking. Imagine Raheem Sterling played for both of Man United's biggest rivals, never scored against them. Yeah, that is a mess. But I think, ladies and gentlemen, it's about time we wrap this one up. And the last thing I want from the boys is a score prediction. So, Lewis, I'll start with you. Hit me. What do you reckon? How does it end tomorrow?
We take the lead and we bottle it in the second half and concede off a corner. 1-1, sadly.
All right. Pice?
I'll go 2-1 Chelsea. I think we score a late penalty with Palmer.
That'd be nice. But a late penalty decision against Man United? Not sure how likely I see that, man. Yeah. You know how those usually go. Honestly, I don't want to be boring, but kind of my prediction was also going to be 1-1, like Lewis said. I'm thinking, shall I say 0-0, which I also see as very feasible. But then we score quite often and we concede quite often. So just to be different, I'll say 2-2 because we concede 2 goals every game. So why not again against Man United? Wouldn't be surprising, would it? But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I think it was about time to wrap this one up. Please do check out Lewis's channel. Link is down in the description. Carefree Lewis G, as always, of course. And obviously check out Pice's website, londonsfirst.com, as well as his Twitter with all his other important links. Follow him, check him out, and all the other good stuff. But ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe. That would be massively appreciated. I really need to start getting into saying this more during streams. I kind of lost that. Anyway, subscribe if you haven't already and hit that like button on your way out. That would be massively appreciated. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for watching. Upwards and onwards. Or who was it last time I said it? Was it Ollie? Downwards and backwards. Up to Chelsea. And we will see you next time.